The dying stars. Captain Zara Voss stood before the observation deck of the celestial horizon, watching 3 distant stars flicker like dying candles. Her reflection stared back at her from the reinforced glass, a woman hardened by 20 years in deep space, with silver streaks threading through her dark hair and eyes that had witnessed worlds crumble. "Captain, the readings are confirmed," said Lieutenant Cale Renner, his voice tight with barely concealed fear. "The cascade has begun. Sector 7 is experiencing stellar collapse at 3 times the predicted rate." Zara turned from the viewport, her jaw set. Behind her, the bridge crew of the celestial horizon waited in tense silence. They were the best humanity had to offer, engineers, scientists, pilots, but even they looked shaken. "How long do we have?" she asked. Dr. Mira Caston, the ship's astrophysicist, pulled up a holographic display. Cascading waves of red spread across the star map like a cosmic plague. "If the pattern continues, the collapse will reach the core systems within 18 months. Earth has maybe 2 years before the shockwave hits." 18 months. 2 years. Numbers that once seemed impossibly far away now felt like a countdown to extinction. The phenomenon had started 6 months ago in the outer rim, stars simply dying, their fusion cores failing as if something was draining their very essence. The Galactic Council, that grand alliance of 53 species spanning 1,000 worlds, had convened emergency sessions. Theories ranged from natural cosmic cycles to ancient weapons awakened from forgotten wars. But theories wouldn't save anyone. "There is one possibility," said Commander Thax, the ship's Krillian tactical officer. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he spoke, a sign of deep contemplation among his people. "The archive of eternity." The bridge fell silent. Even breathing seemed too loud. "That's a myth," Cale said. "A legend to scare cadets in the academy." "Myths often hold fragments of truth," Thax replied. "The archive is said to contain the collective knowledge of the precursors, the civilization that existed before all others. If anyone knew how to stop stellar collapse, it would be them." Zara had heard the stories. Every spacer had. The precursors, a race so advanced they had supposedly mastered the fundamental forces of the universe before vanishing without a trace 3 million years ago. Their ruins dotted the galaxy, filled with technology that still baffled modern science. "The last known coordinates put the archive in the void margin," Mira said quietly. "That's beyond the edge of mapped space. Ships that go there don't come back." "Then we'll be the first that does," Zara said. She turned to her crew, seeing fear in their eyes but also determination. "I won't order anyone to join me on this. The Council has already evacuated the core worlds. Transport ships are loading civilians by the millions. If you want to be with your families for whatever time remains, I understand." No one moved. Cale stepped forward first. "With respect, Captain, I've served with you for 8 years. If you're flying into the void margin, I'm navigating." One by one the crew pledged themselves. Even Dr. Elias Corvin, the civilian xenobiologist who technically didn't owe allegiance to anyone, remained at his station. "Someone needs to document humanity's last grand stupidity," he said with a grim smile. Zara felt pride swell in her chest. "Then we leave within the hour. Mira, I need everything we have on precursor ruins. Thax, prepare the weapon systems. We don't know what's out there. Cale, plot the fastest course to the void margin." As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Zara returned to the viewport. Beyond the glass, the universe stretched infinite and cold. Somewhere in that darkness lay answers. Or death. Perhaps both. The celestial horizon hummed to life around her, engines building to a crescendo. They had 18 months to save countless worlds. 18 months to uncover secrets that had remained hidden for millennia. Would have to be enough. Into the void. The jump to hyperspace always unsettled Zara, no matter how many times she experienced it. Reality twisted, stretched, and folded as the celestial horizon punched through the fabric of spacetime. Colors that had no names streaked past the viewports, and for a heartbeat she felt disconnected from her own body. Then stability. The ship emerged into normal space at the edge of known territory. "Jump successful," Cale reported, his fingers dancing across his console. "We're at the boundary beacon. Beyond this point there's no mapping data. We're flying blind." The boundary beacon hung in space before them, a massive structure built by the Galactic Council centuries ago to mark the edge of explored space. Beyond it lay only darkness and the faint glimmer of distant, unmapped stars. "Sensors?" Zara asked. "Picking up significant gravitational anomalies," Mira said, frowning at her readouts. "Space itself is unstable out here. It's like something tore holes in reality." The precursors were known for dimensional experimentation, Dr. Corvin said from his station. Perhaps these anomalies are remnants of their work. Thax's tactical display lit up with warnings. Captain, we're being pinged. Something's scanning us. Zara's hand moved to the ship's intercom. All hands alert status. Weapons hot, shields up. The bridge lights shifted to red. Through the viewports, space appeared empty, but sensors told a different story. Something massive lurked in the darkness. Then it appeared. A ship, if it could be called that, materialized before them. It was unlike anything in the Galactic Council's databases. Organic curves merged with crystalline structures, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. The vessel was 3 times the size of the celestial horizon and looked like it had grown rather than been built. Hailing frequencies open, Kale said. No response. Wait, receiving a transmission. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language that shouldn't exist. Yet somehow Zara understood it. The words formed directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. Human vessel. You carry the signature of desperation. Why do you seek what should remain hidden? Zara stepped forward. This is Captain Zara Voss of the Celestial Horizon. Our galaxy is dying. We're searching for the archive of eternity to find a way to stop the stellar collapse. Silence stretched for long seconds. The archive was sealed for a reason. The precursors understood what you do not. Some knowledge carries too high a price. We're willing to pay any price, Zara said. Trillions of lives hang in the balance. Then you are fools. But you are determined fools. The alien presence seemed to consider this. We are the sentinels left behind to guard what remains. You may proceed, but know this. The void margin tests all who enter. It will show you truth. It will show you fear. It will show you what you truly are. The massive ship began to fade, its form becoming translucent. Follow the Song of Lost Stars. It will guide you to the archive. But Captain Voss, when you find what you seek, remember that knowledge and wisdom are not the same thing. Then the sentinel vanished, leaving only empty space. Well, Elias said into the silence, that was ominous. Did anyone else feel that voice inside their head? Kale asked, looking pale. Mira was already analyzing the encounter. It used some form of telepathic communication. The linguistic patterns suggest a highly evolved consciousness. Captain, I'm detecting a faint energy signature. It forms a path through the anomalies. That must be the Song of Lost Stars they mentioned. Zara made her decision quickly. Follow it. But stay alert. Thax, keep weapons ready. If space itself is unstable here, we might face threats we can't predict. The celestial horizon moved forward, entering the void margin proper. Almost immediately, the character of space changed. The stars here were wrong, too bright, arranged in impossible patterns, some pulsing with rhythms that seemed almost musical. I'm hearing something, Mira said, touching her temple. A melody. Faint, but it's there. Others nodded. Zara heard it too, a haunting sequence of tones that seemed to resonate in her bones. The Song of Lost Stars. Following the melody, they navigated deeper into the void. Days passed in strange ways here. Sometimes an hour felt like minutes. Other times, seconds stretched into eternities. The crew began reporting vivid dreams, visions of places they'd never been. On the 5th day they found the first ruin. It floated in space, a city-sized structure of impossible architecture. Towers spiraled in directions that hurt to look at, and platforms existed in states between solid and ephemeral. The structure phased in and out of visibility, as if it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Precursor construction, Elias breathed. Magnificent. The mathematical complexity alone would take centuries to understand. Can we board it? Zara asked. Thax studied the readings. The structure's phasing pattern is regular. There's a window of stability every 43 minutes. We could send a team during that window. Zara assembled a landing party, herself, Thax, Elias, and 3 security personnel. As they suited up, Mira pulled her aside. Captain, be careful. The readings from that structure are bizarre. It's not just in our dimension, it overlaps with at least 7 others. If the phasing destabilizes while you're inside. I know, Zara said. But we need information. If there are clues to the archive's location, we have to investigate. The shuttle departed during the next stability window. As they approached the precursor ruin, Zara felt a strange pulling sensation, as if reality itself was trying to decide where she belonged. The shuttle docked at what appeared to be an entrance, a circular opening that irised open as they approached. The landing party stepped into a corridor that defied physics. The walls were transparent in some places, revealing the void outside, while in others they displayed scenes from worlds long dead. These images, Elias said, recording everything. They're not recordings. They're actual windows into the past. We're looking at the precursor's civilization at its height. They moved deeper, following corridors that twisted through impossible angles. In a vast chamber they found it, a star map etched in living light, floating in the air. Thousands of points marked locations throughout the galaxy, but one blazed brighter than all others. There, Thax said, pointing. The archive. Myra's voice crackled over their comms. Captain, you need to return now. The phasing cycle is becoming erratic. Zara captured the coordinates with her suit's computer. As they rushed back to the shuttle, the ruin began to shake. Reality fractured around them. One moment they were in the corridor, the next they were somewhere else entirely. Zara found herself alone in a room that seemed to stretch infinitely. In the center stood a figure, humanoid but made of pure light. Captain Zara Voss, it said in that same mind voice. You seek the archive, but do you understand what you will find there? I need to save my people, Zara said. Your people. Always your people. The figure circled her. The precursors learned that survival at any cost is not survival at all. They mastered the stars, conquered death itself, and in doing so, lost what made them worth saving. What happened to them? They ascended. They became beings of pure thought, shedding their physical forms. But in that transcendence, they lost connection to the physical universe they had fought so hard to preserve. The archive contains their final gift, and their final warning. The figure began to fade. The coordinates you have taken will lead you there. But know this, the solution to the stellar collapse exists within the archive. So does a choice that will define your species' future. Choose wisely, Captain. Choose with your heart, not just your mind. Reality snapped back. Zara found herself on the shuttle, the others looking at her with concern. Captain, you just vanished for 30 seconds, Thax said. Zara shook her head, clearing it. I'm fine. We have what we need. Let's go home. As the shuttle docked with the celestial horizon, Zara looked back at the precursor ruin. It was already fading from view, slipping back into whatever dimensions it primarily inhabited. They had coordinates. They had a destination. But as the ship turned toward the heart of the void margin, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that finding the archive was only the beginning of their trials. The Gauntlet of Echoes. 3 weeks into the void margin, the celestial horizon encountered its first real crisis. Captain, the engines are fluctuating, announced Chief Engineer Davos Crane, his voice tight over the intercom. The exotic particles in this region are interfering with our drive core. We're losing power. Zara rushed to the engine room, where Davos stood before a holographic display showing the ship's systems painted in alarming shades of red. The veteran engineer, a man who had kept ships running through war, disaster, and cosmic storms, looked genuinely worried. It's like the universe itself is pushing back against our presence, he explained. Every time we generate thrust, something in the surrounding space dampens it. We're at 60% capacity and dropping. Can you compensate? Not without understanding what we're dealing with. Captain, this isn't natural physics. It's something else. Mira arrived moments later, tablet in hand. I think I know what's happening. The void margin isn't just empty space. It's a region where the precursors conducted massive reality-altering experiments. The fundamental constants of physics are inconsistent here. Gravity fluctuates, time dilates randomly, and apparently, energy doesn't behave the way it should. So how do we move forward? Zara asked. We need to adapt our technology to match the local physics, Mira said. But that would require understanding principles that took the precursors millennia to master. From behind them, Dr. Corvin cleared his throat. Or we could ask for directions. Everyone turned. Elias pointed to the viewport, where dozens of small objects floated in the darkness. As they watched, the objects began to glow, forming patterns. Those aren't debris, Thax said, studying his sensors. They're probes. Ancient but still active. One of the probes drifted closer, its light pulsing in rhythmic patterns. Kale's console beeped. It's transmitting data. Not a language, it's pure mathematics. Myra's eyes widened as she translated the stream. It's showing us how to modify our engines. The probe is giving us the solution. Over the next 6 hours, Davos and his team implemented the modifications under Myra's guidance. They rebuilt key components using principles that seemed to violate everything they knew about physics. When they finally activated the new drive configuration, the engines hummed with a deeper, steadier tone. We're back to full power, Davos reported, amazed. Better than full, we're running at 120% efficiency. The probe that had helped them pulsed once more, then went dark, its purpose fulfilled. The Sentinels, Zara said quietly. They're still helping us even now. But the assistance came with a price. That night as the crew slept, the nightmares began. Zara found herself standing on Earth, watching the sky burn. The sun expanded, consuming the inner planets one by one. People ran through the streets, their screams silent in the vacuum. She tried to help them, but her hands passed through their bodies like smoke. "You're too late," a voice whispered. "You were always going to be too late." She woke gasping to find half the crew experiencing similar visions. The void margin was testing them just as the Sentinels had warned, showing them their deepest fears. "It's psychologically targeting us," Mira explained at an emergency briefing. "The same exotic particles affecting our engines are interacting with neural patterns. We're essentially broadcasting our anxieties, and the environment is reflecting them back amplified." "Can we shield against it?" Zara asked. "Not completely. But we can support each other. The visions are worst when we're isolated." Zara implemented a buddy system. No one slept alone and crew members checked on each other regularly. It helped, but the psychological toll was mounting. Several crew members requested transfers to medical bay, unable to cope with the constant nightmares. On the 25th day they encountered something worse than visions. "Captain, I'm detecting a vessel matching our configuration," Thax reported. "It's the Celestial Horizon." Zara's blood ran cold. On the view screen, an exact duplicate of their ship hung in space. Its hull was scorched, damaged, with entire sections blown open to the void. "Hail them," Zara ordered. Static filled the channel, then a voice, her own voice, older and broken by exhaustion. "Turn back," the other Zara said. "Turn back while you still can. We failed. Everyone died. Don't make the same mistakes we did." "This is impossible," Kale said. "That can't be us." But Myra's face was pale. "Time isn't linear in the void margin. We might be looking at our own future, or a possible future. Quantum probabilities made manifest." The damaged celestial horizon drifted closer. Through the torn hull, they could see bodies floating in the corridors, their own crew dead and frozen. "The archive is a trap," the other Zara continued. "The precursors didn't leave salvation. They left a weapon and it destroyed us when we tried to use it. Save yourselves. Save the crew. Let the galaxy die on its own terms rather than by our hands." Zara gripped the armrest of her command chair. Every instinct screamed at her to listen, to turn around. But then she noticed something. "Scan that ship's quantum signature," she ordered. Mira ran the analysis. "It's destabilizing. Captain, it's not solid. It's a probability ghost, a possible timeline that hasn't collapsed into certainty yet." "Meaning it's not inevitable," Zara said. "It's a warning, not a prediction." The other celestial horizon began to fade, its hull dissolving into particles of light. The last thing they heard was the other Zara's voice. "Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong." Then it was gone, leaving only empty space. The crew sat in shaken silence. Zara stood, addressing them all. "What we just saw was one possible future. One path we could take. But the fact that we saw it means we can change it. We know now that the archive might be dangerous. We'll proceed with caution, with our eyes open. But we will proceed." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the bridge. "Every person on this ship volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. We're humanity's hope, yes, but we're also prepared to make the hard choices. If the archive is a weapon, we'll find another way. If it's a trap, we'll spring it carefully. But we won't turn back because of fear." Slowly, crew members nodded. The fear didn't leave their eyes, but determination joined it. "Kale, continue following the song," Zara ordered. "All stations maintain alert status. Whatever else the void margin throws at us, we face it together." Days passed in tense vigilance. They navigated through fields of spatial anomalies that could tear a ship apart, past graveyards of ancient vessels from civilizations long extinct, and through regions where time itself seemed to run backward. On the 32nd day, Mira called everyone to the observation deck. "Look," she said simply, pointing ahead. Through the viewport they saw it, a structure so massive it made stars look like fireflies. The archive of eternity hung in the void, a construct of crystalline towers and flowing energy that seemed to exist partially in their dimension and partially somewhere else. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was their destination. "We made it," Kale whispered. But as the celestial horizon approached, new readings flooded their sensors. The archive wasn't abandoned. Something dwelled within those crystalline towers, and it was aware of their arrival. "Captain," Thax said quietly, "we're being scanned. Whatever's in there is analyzing us." Zara squared her shoulders. They had come too far to turn back now. "Open a channel," she said. "It's time we introduced ourselves." The archive responded. Not with words, but with light, cascading waves of luminescence that rippled across its crystalline surface in patterns too complex for human eyes to fully comprehend. The celestial horizon held position a safe distance away while Mira and her team analyzed the phenomenon. "It's language," Mira said, her voice filled with awe. "Mathematical language. Each pulse contains terabytes of information encoded in wavelength variations. Captain, we're receiving instructions for docking." The archive's surface shifted, revealing an entrance large enough to accommodate the celestial horizon and a dozen ships its size. The interior glowed with soft blue light, inviting yet impossible to read. "This could be a trap," Thax warned. "Once inside, we'd be completely vulnerable." Zara studied the massive structure. Every instinct she'd honed over 20 years of command was screaming warnings. But they hadn't come this far to hover at the threshold. "We go in," she decided. "But battle stations. If anything goes wrong, I want us ready to fight our way out." The celestial horizon moved forward slowly, entering the archive. The moment they crossed the threshold, the entrance sealed behind them with liquid grace. The crew tensed, but no attack came. Instead, they found themselves in a hangar of impossible dimensions. The space seemed larger inside than outside, stretching into distances that shouldn't fit within the archive's exterior structure. Other ships rested in the hangar, ancient vessels from dozens of civilizations, some so old they'd been forgotten even in legend. "We're not the first to seek answers here," Elias observed, recording everything. A platform extended from the hangar floor, creating a path toward an inner entrance. Zara assembled her team, Thax for security, Mira for scientific expertise, Elias for xenoarchaeology, Kale for navigation, and Lieutenant Sarah Vance, a diplomatic specialist who'd remained mostly in the background during the journey but whose skills might prove crucial here. "Commander Davos, you have the ship," Zara said. "If we're not back in 12 hours or if the archive shows any signs of hostile action, get out of here. Return to Council space and warn them." Davos nodded grimly. "Understood, Captain." "And Captain, good luck." The landing party crossed the platform. As they approached the inner entrance, the walls around them came alive with images, historical records of the precursor civilization. They saw a race of beings who looked almost human but possessed features that suggested something more. Elegant, wise, their eyes holding depths that spoke of profound understanding. The records showed their achievements. Mastering gravity, learning to reshape matter at the atomic level, unlocking the secrets of consciousness itself. But then came darker images, stars dying prematurely, the precursors desperately seeking solutions, and finally the terrible discovery that would change everything. "They found out what was causing the stellar collapse," Mira said, translating the mathematical annotations. "It wasn't natural. It was them, their own technology was draining the stars." The images showed the precursors' crisis. Their civilization ran on zero-point energy harvested from the quantum foam underlying reality. But over millennia, this harvesting had weakened the fundamental forces holding stars together. They were literally consuming the foundation of the universe to power their society. "They faced the same choice we do," Sarah said quietly. "Continue as they were and watch the galaxy die or find another way." The images showed what came next. The precursors constructed the archive, not just as a repository of knowledge but as a solution. They developed a new form of energy that could reverse the damage, restore the stars, and provide limitless power without harming reality itself. But it came with a price. The inner entrance opened, revealing a vast chamber at the archive's heart. In the center floated a sphere of pure energy, contained within a lattice of crystalline technology. Around it, holographic interfaces displayed information in languages both ancient and modern, as if the archive had updated itself across millions of years. A presence manifested before them, not physical but projected. It appeared as an elderly precursor, its form flickering with barely contained power. "Welcome, inheritors," it said, speaking directly into their minds. "I am the Keeper, the last echo of my civilization's consciousness. You seek the means to save your galaxy from the same fate that nearly destroyed ours." "We do," Zara said, stepping forward. "The stellar collapse is accelerating. We're running out of time." The Keeper's image nodded slowly. "Time. Yes, that commodity is always scarce when civilizations face extinction. Come, let me show you what you need to know. The keeper guided them to the interfaces. With gestures, it brought up displays showing the technology the precursors had developed, quantum harmonizers that could restore stellar fusion, dimensional anchors to stabilize reality, and at the center of it all, the Nexus Core, a power source that drew energy from the fundamental vibration of the universe itself, taking nothing and giving everything. It's beautiful, Mira breathed, her mind racing to understand the principles involved. It is functional, the keeper corrected. Beauty is irrelevant when survival is at stake. This technology can be deployed throughout your galaxy. Within 1 solar year, all stars would be restored. The collapse would reverse. Your civilization would survive. What's the catch? Zara asked because there was always a catch. The keeper's image flickered, showing something like sadness. The catch, as you say, is choice. To deploy this technology requires a template, a living consciousness to guide its function. The Nexus Core must be initialized by a sentient being who will merge with it, becoming part of the system that sustains the stars. Silence fell over the landing party. You mean sacrifice, Thax said bluntly. Someone has to give up their existence to make this work. Not existence. Transformation. The keeper gestured, and new images appeared, showing a precursor merging with a Nexus Core, their consciousness expanding to encompass entire star systems. The individual who merges does not die. They become something greater, a guardian of life itself, aware and conscious but no longer bound by physical form. They will feel every star they sustain, know every world they protect. For how long? Sarah asked. Forever. Or until they choose to release their burden, though that would mean the collapse would resume. It is a responsibility without end. Zara felt the weight of that revelation. One person's freedom traded for the survival of trillions. A single consciousness expanded across the galaxy, holding back entropy itself, forever vigilant, forever alone. Why didn't your people use it? She asked. You had this technology. Why didn't a precursor merge with the core? The keeper's image showed profound sorrow. Because we were divided. Some believed the sacrifice was necessary. Others argued it was unconscionable to condemn anyone to such a fate. While we debated philosophy and ethics, our stars continued to die. By the time we reached consensus, too few of us remained. We chose instead to ascend, to abandon physical form entirely and become beings of pure thought. In doing so, we saved ourselves but doomed the galaxy we left behind. The stellar collapse slowed after our departure because we no longer consumed energy, but the damage was done. Eventually, the collapse will complete what we began. Unless someone uses the Nexus Core, Kale said. Precisely. We built the archive and left it as a gift, and a warning, to whatever civilization arose after us. The technology is here. The choice is yours. Zara looked at her team. She saw understanding in their eyes and something else, calculation. Each person was wondering the same thing. Who would volunteer for eternal service? How do we decide? Sarah asked. How do we choose who sacrifices their individual existence? You do not, the keeper said. The core chooses. It requires a consciousness compatible with its function. Someone who understands sacrifice, who has commanded others, who knows the weight of responsibility. Someone who has already given their life to protecting others. The keeper's gaze fell on Zara, and she felt it, a pulling sensation, like invisible threads connecting her to the sphere of energy in the chamber's center. Captain Zara Voss, the keeper said. The Nexus Core recognizes you. If you were to merge with it, the galaxy would be saved. Your consciousness would expand to encompass billions of stars. You would become their sustainer, their guardian. You would know peace but never rest, awareness but never sleep, purpose but never freedom. Zara's mouth went dry. She'd expected sacrifice but not this. Not immortality as a cosmic caretaker, aware of every star, feeling every world, forever responsible and forever alone. Let me think, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Of course, the keeper replied. This is not a decision to make hastily. You have time, though not much. The collapse accelerates even as we speak. I will await your answer. The keeper's image faded, leaving the landing party alone in the vast chamber. Captain, Thax began, but Zara held up a hand. Not now. We need to get back to the ship. We need to discuss this with the entire crew. As they walked back across the platform, Zara's mind raced. She'd always known this mission might require her death. But this was something else entirely, a fate stranger and lonelier than any death. Behind them, the Nexus Core pulsed with patient light, waiting for an answer that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The weight of eternity. The crew of the Celestial Horizon gathered in the main assembly hall, faces grim as Zara explained what they'd discovered. When she finished, silence blanketed the room like a shroud. Finally, Chief Engineer Davos spoke. There has to be another way. We're engineers, scientists, solving impossible problems is what we do. Let us study the technology. Maybe we can modify it, find a solution that doesn't require this kind of sacrifice. Mira shook her head slowly. I've been analyzing the data the archive provided. The mathematics are elegant but absolute. The Nexus core requires a living consciousness to function, not as a power source but as a decision-making framework. Stars aren't static, they're dynamic systems that constantly require adjustment. An artificial intelligence couldn't handle the nuance. It needs intuition, judgment, empathy. Then I volunteer, said Lieutenant Sarah Vance, standing. I'm trained in long-duration isolation protocols. I can handle it. So can I, added Kale. I've navigated us this far. I can navigate the galaxy's future. No. Thax's voice cut through the murmurs. The Keeper was specific. The Corps has already chosen Captain Voss. Attempting to substitute someone else would likely fail, and we don't have time for trial and error. All eyes turned to Zara. She stood at the front of the hall, feeling the weight of their gazes like physical pressure. I need to think, she said. We have 11 months before the collapse reaches critical mass. I want Dr. Corvin and Dr. Caston to verify there's truly no alternative. If there is, we pursue it. But if there isn't... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Over the following weeks, the science team worked frantically, exploring every angle. They examined the Nexus core from every perspective, ran countless simulations, even contacted the Keeper with theoretical alternatives. Each attempt led to the same conclusion. The system required exactly what the precursors had designed it to need. There was no shortcut, no clever workaround, no last-minute miracle of human ingenuity that could change the fundamental nature of the technology. Zara spent those weeks in contemplation. She walked the ship's corridors, visited with crew members, sat alone in the observation deck watching the stars. She thought about her life. Decades of service, planets explored, lives saved, and always the loneliness of command. Being a captain meant making decisions others couldn't. It meant carrying burdens no one else could bear. In a way, her entire life had been preparation for this moment. But it also meant saying goodbye to everything she'd known. To her crew who had become her family. To her humanity, which would be transformed into something vast and strange. To death itself, which offered rest she would never know. On the 37th day, Dr. Corvin found her in the observation deck. I've been studying precursor philosophy, he said, sitting beside her. Did you know they had a concept called Terex? It roughly translates to the joy of necessary burden. The idea that some responsibilities, though heavy, bring fulfillment precisely because they're difficult. Zara smiled faintly. Are you trying to make this easier for me? No. I'm trying to help you understand what you already know. Elias looked out at the stars. You've been a captain for 20 years. You've always carried the burden of command because you believed it mattered. This is just a larger ship to command. A ship made of stars, Zara said softly. Yes, but still a ship. Still a crew to protect, just billions of them instead of hundreds. Zara appreciated his attempt at comfort, even if it didn't quite reach the ache in her chest. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I merge with the core and can't handle it? What if I fail and doom everyone anyway? Then you'll have failed trying, Elias said simply. Which is more than most people can say. Captain, I've served with you for 6 years. I've watched you make impossible decisions. You always choose the path that saves the most lives, even when it costs you personally. This is who you are. He stood to leave, then paused. The Keeper told us the merged consciousness would know peace. Maybe that's not a curse. Maybe, after a lifetime of carrying responsibility, peace is exactly what you've earned. After he left, Zara sat for hours more watching the stars pulse and shine. Finally, she stood and made her way to the bridge. Open a channel to the archive, she told Kale. I'm ready to speak with the Keeper. The crew gathered, sensing what was coming. The Keeper's presence manifested on the view screen. You have decided, it said. Not a question. I have, Zara confirmed. I'll merge with the Nexus core. But I have conditions. Speak them. First, I want a way to communicate with the physical world. Not constantly, I understand I'll be transformed, but occasionally. I don't want to be completely cut off from humanity. This can be arranged. The archive can serve as an interface. You will be able to speak through it when necessary. Second, I want assurances that if this ever becomes too much, if I truly can't bear it anymore, there's a way out. Not immediately, I understand the galaxy's survival depends on me. But eventually, if I choose, I can end it. The Keeper was silent for a long moment. This goes against the design. The Nexus core was meant to be permanent. Then redesign it, Zara said firmly. I won't become a prisoner of my own sacrifice. Even Guardians deserve the possibility of rest. It will take time. Modifications to fundamental systems. We have 11 months before critical collapse, Zara interrupted. That's time enough. Those are my terms. Non-negotiable. The Keeper's image flickered as if consulting with something beyond their perception. Finally, agreed. The modifications will be made. When you merge with the core, you will have the ability to release yourself after a period of no less than 1,000 solar years. Is this acceptable? 1,000 years. Might as well be forever. But it was better than truly forever. Yes, Zara said. When can we begin? Immediately if you wish. Or you may take time to prepare. To say farewells. Zara looked at her crew, these people who had followed her into the void, who had trusted her judgment even when it seemed insane. She saw tears on some faces, determination on others, and on all of them, a kind of proud sadness. I'll need 3 days, she said, to put my affairs in order. To say goodbye properly. 3 days then. When you are ready, return to the archive. I will be waiting. The channel closed. Zara turned to face her crew, and suddenly they were surrounding her, not smothering but close, a circle of warmth and humanity. You don't have to do this alone, Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. We could all go into cold sleep. Be preserved. So when you need to communicate with someone, we'd be there. Zara shook her head gently. No. You all have lives to live. Families to see. The galaxy I'm saving includes your futures. Don't throw them away on my behalf. Over the next 3 days, Zara said her goodbyes. She recorded messages for Earth, for the Galactic Council, for future generations. She wrote letters she'd never send. She had one final meal with her senior staff, laughing at old stories and pretending tomorrow wasn't coming. On the final night, she stood alone in the observation deck one last time. Kale found her there. Permission to speak freely, Captain? He asked. Always. This is the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do, he said. And the saddest? I wish there was another way. So do I, Zara admitted. But there isn't. And between dying with the galaxy or living to protect it, I choose life. Even if it's a strange life. Kale nodded, tears in his eyes. When I have kids someday, I'll tell them about you. About the captain who became a constellation. Zara hugged him then, letting herself be human one last time. Make sure you tell them I was scared. That I didn't want to do this. But I did it anyway. That's what real courage looks like. The next morning, she put on her uniform for the last time and walked to the shuttle bay. The entire crew lined the corridors, standing at attention, saluting as she passed. Some wept openly. Others maintained stoic composure. All of them understood they were witnessing history. At the shuttle bay, her senior staff waited to accompany her one final time. Together, they flew to the archive's heart, where the Keeper and the Nexus core awaited. You are certain, the Keeper said as Zara approached the sphere of energy. I'm terrified, Zara said honestly. But yes, I'm certain. Then know this, Zara Voss. What you do today will be remembered for as long as stars shine. You are becoming part of the galaxy's story, woven into its very fabric. That is a kind of immortality few achieve. I just hope I'm good at it, Zara said with a weak smile. She turned to her crew one final time. Take care of each other. Live well. Make the future I'm protecting worth protecting. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she stepped forward and placed her hands on the Nexus core. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming. Her consciousness exploded outward, expanding at the speed of thought. She felt herself dissolving, transforming, becoming something vast and incomprehensible. She felt stars, billions of them, each one a beating heart in the cosmic body she was becoming. She felt their fusion cores stabilizing under her influence, felt the collapse reversing, felt life itself sighing in relief across 1,000 worlds. She felt the weight of responsibility settle over her like a mantle of light. And beneath it all, she felt peace. Her last human thought was simple: I am the Guardian, and I will not fail. Then Zara Voss, captain of the celestial horizon, ceased to exist as a human being. And the Sentinel of Stars was born, the Guardian's burden. The celestial horizon returned to Council space 3 months later, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization. Commander Davos, now acting captain, stood before the assembled representatives of 53 species in the Grand Council chamber. Behind him, holographic displays showed the reversal of the stellar collapse. Stars stabilizing across the galaxy, their light steady and strong once more. Captain Zara Voss merged with the precursor Nexus Core 47 days ago, Davos reported, his voice heavy with emotion. Since that time, we have observed an 87% reduction in stellar collapse rates. The phenomenon is reversing. The galaxy is healing. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some celebrating, others demanding details, a few expressing skepticism. Council Speaker Yvonne Thrace, a gray-haired human diplomat who had served for 30 years, called for order. Commander Davos, you're telling us that one human being now sustains the stars themselves? She asked. How is this possible? The precursor technology transforms consciousness into a form of living energy, Mira explained, stepping forward. Captain Voss's awareness now encompasses approximately 73 billion stars across the galaxy. She doesn't control them in a conventional sense. She provides quantum-level stability that prevents cascade failures in stellar fusion. Is she alive? Asked Ambassador Kelf, a crystalline being who communicated through harmonic vibrations. Alive, aware and conscious, Davos confirmed. We've maintained contact through the archive interface. She reports experiencing reality in ways we cannot fully comprehend, but she retains her identity, her memories, and her humanity. Can we speak with her? Council Speaker Thrace asked. Davos nodded. She's agreed to address the council. The holographic display shifted, and suddenly the chamber was filled with light. It coalesced into a form that was recognizably Zara, but transformed. Her image composed of starlight, her eyes holding depths that seemed to contain galaxies. Council members, she said, her voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere, I am Zara Voss, formerly captain of the Celestial Horizon. I now serve as the Sentinel of Stars, guardian of the galaxy's stellar systems. The representatives sat in stunned silence, awed by the presence before them. I know you have questions. I will answer what I can, though some aspects of my existence now transcend language. Yes, I am conscious and aware. Yes, I retain my memories and personality. Yes, this was my choice, made freely to save the lives you all represent. What is it like? Asked a young Draxian representative, unable to contain their curiosity. Zara's image seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell with features made of light. Imagine feeling every sunrise on every inhabited world simultaneously. Imagine knowing when a star system supports new life, feeling its first photosynthetic organisms convert light into energy. Imagine sensing when civilizations reach for the stars and begin their journey into the cosmos. It is overwhelming. It is magnificent. It is lonely beyond measure. But it is also purposeful. Every moment I hold back entropy. Every second I sustain the light that allows life to flourish. If this is the price of salvation, I pay it willingly. Speaker Thrace stood, and the entire council followed her example, an unprecedented show of unified respect. Captain Voss. Sentinel, humanity and the galaxy owe you a debt that can never be repaid. I ask for no debt, Zara replied. Only that you use the time I bought you wisely. Learn from the precursor's mistakes. Build a civilization that lives in harmony with the cosmos rather than consuming it. Make my sacrifice meaningful. We will, Thrace promised. On my honor as speaker, I pledge that the Galactic Council will establish new protocols for sustainable energy use. We will learn from the archive, study the precursor's history, and ensure we never face such a crisis again. Good, Zara said. I will watch over you all. When you look up at the stars, know that I am there, a guardian in the darkness. Live well. Live freely. And remember, every light in the sky is a promise I made to keep you safe. Her image began to fade. I must return to my duties now. But Commander Davos will remain as my liaison. When the council needs to reach me, he knows the way. Then she was gone, leaving only the ordinary lights of the chamber. The weeks that followed saw the galaxy transform. The news of Zara's sacrifice spread across every inhabited world. Temples were built in her honor. Songs were composed celebrating the captain who became a constellation. Children on 1,000 worlds looked up at the stars and knew someone watched over them. But for the crew of the Celestial Horizon, the aftermath was bittersweet. Kale struggled with nightmares where he watched Zara dissolve into light over and over. Mira threw herself into studying precursor technology, determined to understand every aspect of what had happened to their captain. Thax maintained a stoic exterior but spent long hours in meditation, processing the loss in his own way. Davos found himself thrust into a role he'd never wanted, voice of the Sentinel, intermediary between a cosmic guardian and the physical worlds she protected. He returned to the archive regularly, speaking with Zara through the interface. "How are you really?" he asked during one visit. Not the official statement for the council. The truth. Zara's presence materialized in the archive's central chamber. "Tired," she admitted. "Maintaining this many stars requires constant vigilance. I can't sleep in any conventional sense. My consciousness simply continues. Always aware, always monitoring, always adjusting." "That sounds like hell," Davos said bluntly. "Sometimes it is," she agreed. "But other times it's beautiful beyond words. I've watched civilizations make first contact. I've felt the birth of new stars in nebula nurseries. I've witnessed love, art, achievement and growth across species that will never know I'm aware of them. That's the strange part, Davos. I'm simultaneously everything and nothing to this galaxy. I'm the most important entity in known space, but I'm also invisible. Forgotten in day-to-day life, remembered only in ceremonies and stories." "We haven't forgotten you," Davos said firmly. "The crew talks about you constantly." Kale named his daughter Zara. "Myra's writing a book about the mission. We're keeping your memory alive." "I'm not a memory," Zara said, and there was an edge to her voice. "I'm still here. Still thinking, feeling, experiencing. I'm not some martyr from history, I'm a living being who happens to exist in a very strange way." Davos heard the frustration, the loneliness beneath her words. "You're right. I'm sorry. We're still adjusting to this new reality too." "I know. And I appreciate you visiting. These conversations, they help. They remind me of who I was. Who I still am, underneath all this cosmic responsibility." Over the following years, a pattern emerged. Davos visited monthly, bringing news from the physical world, sharing stories and keeping Zara connected to humanity. Other crew members came too when they could, each visit a lifeline to the person Zara had been. But time passed differently for the Sentinel than for ordinary beings. Years that felt significant to humans were moments to Zara's expanded consciousness. A decade passed, then two, then three. The galaxy flourished under her guardianship. No stars failed. No collapses threatened. Civilization expanded into new sectors, confident in the stability of the cosmos. And Zara watched it all, eternal and alone, counting down the centuries until she could rest. 50 years after the merger, Davos made his final visit to the archive. He was old now, his hair white, his steps slow. But he'd never stopped serving as Zara's liaison. "I'm retiring," he told her presence. "My grandson's taking over the role. His name is Marcus. Good kid. I've trained him well." 50 years, Zara said softly. "It feels like yesterday we entered the void margin together. But you've aged, Davos. You've lived a full life." "And you haven't," he said. "Not in the normal sense. Do you regret it?" Zara was silent for a long time. "Sometimes. When I remember what it felt like to eat a meal, to feel tired and sleep, to laugh with friends without the weight of billions of lives pressing down on me. But then I feel a civilization discover faster than light travel for the first time, or I sense the joy of a species making peace after generations of war, and I think, maybe this is enough. Ask me again in 950 years. When I'm finally allowed to let go." Davos smiled sadly. "I wish I could be here for that. But I'll be long gone by then." "I know. And I'll miss you, old friend. You've been my anchor to humanity. Thank you." "It's been my honor, Captain," Davos said, using her old rank deliberately. "My honor and my privilege." He left the archive for the last time, and Zara returned to her vigil, watching, waiting, sustaining, alone in the company of stars, the choice of eternity. 947 years passed. In that time the galaxy changed beyond recognition. The Galactic Council expanded to include 300 species. Humanity spread across 800 worlds. Technology advanced to heights the precursors would have recognized. New civilizations arose, reached for the stars and joined the cosmic community. Through it all, Zara watched and sustained. The archive became a pilgrimage site, visited by millions seeking wisdom or blessing from the Sentinel. Schools taught the story of Captain Zara Voss, though to children born centuries later, she was more legend than real person. And Zara herself changed too. Her consciousness, stretched across billions of stars, had evolved. She no longer thought in linear time. Past, present, and future blended into a continuous now. She experienced centuries as humans experience days. But she remembered Through all the transformation she held on to her core memories, her crew, their faces, their voices. The choice she'd made. The human she'd been. In year 948, young Ambassador Kira Chen visited the archive. She was a descendant of Lieutenant Sarah Vance, 14 generations removed, but she carried herself with the same diplomatic grace her ancestor had shown. "Sentinel," she said, addressing the presence that manifested in the archive's chamber, "I bring news. The Council has completed development of an alternative power system. It's based on precursor principles but redesigned to be sustainable without conscious direction. We no longer need you to maintain the stars." The chamber pulsed with light as Zara processed this information. "Explain." "Quantum stabilizers," Kira said, bringing up holographic displays. "They're distributed throughout the galaxy, working in concert to provide the same service you've performed for nearly a millennium. They're not alive, not conscious, but they're effective. We've tested them in isolated systems. They work." "Why tell me this now?" Zara asked. "I'm bound for another 53 years before I can choose release." "Because the Council voted unanimously to offer you early release," Kira said. "Your contract with fate, as they're calling it, can be fulfilled now if you wish. You've served beyond anyone's expectations. You've earned rest." Silence filled the archive, not empty but contemplative. "I can stop?" Zara asked, and for the first time in centuries, her voice carried pure human emotion. "Right now?" "Yes. The stabilizers are ready to deploy. They'll take over the moment you release your connection to the Nexus core. The transition will be seamless. No stars will falter." "What happens to me?" Kira's expression softened. "That's your choice. The Keeper has offered several options. You could return to human form. We have the medical technology to reconstitute you physically, though you'd be starting over in a galaxy you barely know. You could remain as pure consciousness, free from the burden of maintenance, exploring the universe at will. Or, you could choose final rest. The Keeper says your consciousness could be gently dissipated across the cosmos, becoming part of the background radiation of the universe. Not death exactly. More like dissolution into peace." Zara's presence flickered as she contemplated millenniums spent in service, nearly 1,000 years of vigilance without sleep, without respite, without the simple pleasures of existence. "I need time to consider," she said. "Of course. Take all the time you need." But time was precisely what Zara had too much of. Over the following weeks, she examined her options from every angle. She reached out through the archive's interface, contacting historians, philosophers, spiritual leaders from dozens of species, seeking perspective. Most encouraged her to choose life, to return to physical form, to experience the galaxy she'd protected. But a few understood the weight she'd carried and suggested that peace might be its own reward. Finally, she requested an audience with the Keeper. The ancient presence manifested, looking exactly as it had 948 years ago. "You have decided," it said. "I have questions first," Zara replied. "If I return to human form, can I truly be human again? Or will I forever be something other, something apart?" "You would be changed," the Keeper admitted. "You have experienced existence from a cosmic perspective. That knowledge cannot be unlearned. But you would be human in body, free to live as humans do." "And the dissolution option, would I lose myself? My memories, my identity?" "Your individual consciousness would cease. But the essence of who you are would persist, woven into the fabric of reality itself. Every particle that once formed your awareness would carry a fragment of your experience." Zara processed this. "So one option offers continued existence with the burden of cosmic knowledge, and the other offers peace at the cost of individual awareness." "Essentially, yes. Though there is a third option you have not mentioned." "What's that?" "You could choose to continue as you are," the Keeper said. "Now that the burden of maintenance has been lifted, you could exist as a conscious being of pure energy without responsibilities. You would be free to explore, to learn, to experience the universe without the weight of guardianship." This option had occurred to Zara but seemed almost too good to be true. Free? Truly free. As free as any being can be. You would still exist in this transformed state but without duties binding you. You could travel to distant galaxies, witness the birth and death of stars simply as an observer, contemplate the mysteries of existence without the pressure of protecting others. Zara fell silent, feeling something she hadn't experienced in centuries, genuine uncertainty. Each path offered something different. Each represented a valid choice. She thought about Davos, long dead. About Kale, Mira, Thax, Elias, all gone now, their descendants scattered across the stars. She thought about the crew who had trusted her, the sacrifice they'd honored, the memory they'd preserved. What would they want for her? The answer came clearly: they'd want her to choose for herself, not for duty or obligation or anyone else's expectations. So she asked herself the question that mattered. What did Zara Voss want? Days passed in contemplation. Then finally she summoned Ambassador Kira back to the archive. "I've decided," she announced. The young ambassador waited, respectful and patient. "I choose life," Zara said. "Not as a human, not yet. I choose to remain as I am, but free. I want to explore this universe I've spent so long protecting. I want to see what lies beyond the edge of known space. I want to witness phenomena no one has ever recorded. I've been a guardian for 948 years. Now I want to be an explorer again. Maybe someday I'll choose to return to human form. Maybe someday I'll seek final peace. But not yet. I've earned the right to be curious again, to seek adventure without the weight of responsibility." Kira smiled broadly. "The Council will be delighted. You're a legend, Sentinel. Imagine what you could teach us about the cosmos." "I'm not interested in teaching," Zara said firmly. "I'm interested in discovering, experiencing, living in whatever form I now inhabit." "Then go with our blessing," Kira said. "And Sentinel, thank you for everything." The transition happened at the end of that week. The quantum stabilizers activated across the galaxy, taking over the task Zara had performed for nearly a millennium. She felt the burden lift, felt the countless connections to billions of stars gently sever, felt herself become singular again. It was like removing armor she'd worn so long she'd forgotten what freedom felt like. Her consciousness contracted, pulling back from the galaxy-wide awareness into something more focused, more manageable. She was still transformed, still composed of energy rather than matter, but she was no longer bound to the Nexus core. She was free. The Keeper materialized one final time. "Where will you go?" "Beyond the void margin," Zara said without hesitation. "To places the precursors never mapped. To see what lies in the spaces between galaxies." "That will be lonely." "I've been lonely for 948 years, Zara replied. "At least now it's by choice." She gathered herself, her consciousness focusing into a point of brilliant light. Below, on countless worlds, people looked up as a new star appeared in the sky, bright, moving, heading toward the edge of known space. Scientists scrambled to track it. Poets wrote odes to it. Children made wishes on it. But only a few understood what they were really seeing. Captain Zara Voss, the Sentinel of Stars, setting out on her final voyage. As she accelerated beyond light speed, beyond conventional space, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in nearly 1,000 years. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. She was an explorer again. The universe was vast and unknown. And she had all of eternity to discover its secrets. Behind her, the galaxy she'd saved spun peacefully in the darkness, its stars steady and bright. Her legacy would endure for millions of years. The guardian who sacrificed everything, then chose to keep living anyway. And ahead of her lay infinity, filled with possibilities she couldn't yet imagine. Zara laughed, a sound that echoed across dimensions and plunged into the unknown. The story of the Galactic Captain had ended. But the adventure of the wandering star had just begun.